So here we are, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday. Let's make sure, let's give everybody a moment to get in here. And we're going to get into what we need to get into. Give everybody a little bit of time. Then we're going to get to what we need to get to as y'all are checking in. Y'all know what it is. You can shout yourself out in the comments section. And we're going to get to what we need to get to. Turn your volume up. Hopefully this might not be that long. We'll see. It depends on what happens here as we get to this. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday, had a great week, have a great start to your weekend thus far. My name is Dre Baldwin. I'll formally introduce myself in a minute. I'm gonna give people a few just to get in here and get situated. Turn your volume up. You can shout yourself out in the comments section. Then we're gonna get to this on this Saturday, September the 26th of September 26th of 2020. 2020, man. We got 5 weeks to this election. It's time to buckle up, like Mozart Gates said. So for those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Former 9-year professional athlete, author of 27 books. I've done 4 TED Talks. I created this whole philosophy, this brand that is called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking a pro athlete necessary tools to succeed in professional sports and teaching how those tools apply in business and in life. Now today, this is not a normal work on your game topic. Y'all see what the title is. I wasn't even sure I was gonna talk about this because I've talked about it enough. I talked about it weeks ago. I talked about it when things were first heating up with all the civil unrest going on in the United States in the summer of 2020, the hot summer of 2020. I did a whole article on this that you can read. I posted it on my IG story a couple days ago. You can find it on my website at dreallday.com. I sent it out as an email. I posted it on Twitter. I posted it on Facebook. I posted it on my website. So everybody, no matter where you're watching, I got Facebook over here, Periscope here, and Instagram here. That article is out there, so you can find that article again. Just go to my website, dreallday.com, or if you're on my email list, you've read it. So I said everything that I actually needed to say about this. And so those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Breonna Taylor decision was handed down a couple days ago by a district attorney in the state of Kentucky. Black man by the name of Daniel Cameron. He came out and let everyone know that they were only charging for wanton endangerment to one officer in the Breonna Taylor situation, a black woman who was shot and killed in her home while a warrant was being executed on her home back in March of this year. It didn't really pick up steam actually until like the summer. I didn't even know about it until the summer. Then it was months that everybody was talking about it, saying arrest the cops who had shot Breonna Taylor. The NBA did it, the WNBA got into it, ESPN got involved, NBA players are involved, NBA as a league got involved, and everybody's doing it. Everybody who's woke on TV or with a voice or with a platform, they were all saying these things. So this is a big thing. Everybody wanted to know what was going to happen. Finally, this week, the district attorney announced in St. Louis, we're finally going to announce, Louisville rather, we're going to announce what we're going to do. And the guy comes out and says they're only charging one cop. And they didn't even charge the cop that actually fired the bullet that hit Breonna Taylor. So those of y'all don't know the details, go to my article and read the article. I explain everything, how it happened, why it happened, and actually what I thought about it. So I just want to give y'all 3 quick points on this because, again, I wasn't even sure I was going to talk about this because I feel like it's pretty much done. But there's something that happened yesterday that sparked a thought in me, and I'm going to get to that on my 3rd point. So first of all, let's talk about the Breonna Taylor outcome and what got decided and how I feel about it. Because I'm going to go on the record here. And I said this in my article already, so I'm not saying anything right now that I did not already say in the article that I wrote last week. Okay, so if you haven't read that article, please read the article where you can get my full context on everything that I'm about to say right now. First of all, the decision that the district attorney handed out and said we are not going to charge officers with murder or even manslaughter for the death of Breonna Taylor, based on the facts of the situation, was fair. This is where I stand. I read all the facts. I read all the stories from different sides of it. I read the CNN, New York Times versions. I read the Fox versions. I read the MSNBC version. I read the woke version. I read the conservative version. I read the red version, the blue version. And I got all the information, know what happened, pieced it together. I wasn't there, but the decision ended up being fair for a certain certain number of reasons. First of all, let's talk about Breonna Taylor herself. Rest in peace. She was the victim of 3 specific things that happened at the same time that led to her not being alive. One was a very small, and not a very small, but we'll just call it small, bad decision that she made. She got involved with a man who was living that life. All right? And y'all don't know what that life means. That means being in the streets and doing things that are illegal. That's a decision that Breonna Taylor, when she was alive, she made that choice to deal with a guy who was living that life. And those of you who are not from any areas where you ever been around anybody who was living that type of life, you never saw The Wire or any TV show like that. When somebody's involved in that life, there's only 2 ways you get out of that life. You either end up incarcerated or you end up getting killed. Those are the only 2 ways you end up out of that life. There are very few exceptions of people who get in that life and walk away from it scot-free. You know, Jay-Z raps about every day how he got out. Every time Jay-Z raps, he's rapping about how he got out of that life. Jay-Z is the one, and the rest of the million are either dead or in jail. You ever meet Jay-Z and ask him, he'll tell you himself. Everybody he was hustling with, they either dead or they went to prison. All right, so that's the way that it ends up. The decision that she made to deal with this guy led to everything else that happened in the end. And we're going to come back to that in a minute. The second thing that happened was she was the victim of really bad luck, because the day that the police executed this warrant and came into her house, first of all, there was a discrepancy between did the cops knock on the door, or did the cops announce themselves when they knocked on the door, or did they not? I know it was a no-knock warrant technically, but even the boyfriend, the new boyfriend, not the hustler dude, but the dude that she was with that wasn't in the streets, that he wasn't doing nothing illegal, he even admitted that they did knock on the door, but when he said, "Who is it?" nobody responded. The cops said they said it was police, and they didn't hear anybody on the inside. So maybe the door is just thick enough that nobody can hear each other. All right, let's just assume that they're both telling the truth. The cops told the truth. The guy in the house told the truth. They come in, dude shoots the gun. Now, mind you, if I'm in my house and I own a gun, I live in the state of Florida. Florida is a stand your ground state where if I own a gun and somebody breaks in my house, I have a legal right to shoot you. That is my legal right. In the state of Kentucky, he had the same right. He shot his gun. He was defending his property because somebody had busted in his house. He didn't hear them say police. He shot the gun. He hits the cop shoot back. Breonna Taylor is the one who gets shot. Incredible that they fired, I believe the report said 32 bullets got shot. 32 shots get let off by the cops, and she's the only one who gets hit. So I don't know what this dude did after he fired his gun, but he didn't get hit. So I don't know. He did that's like some Matrix shit, whatever he did. So he ends up not getting hit. She gets hit like 5 times. She dies. The cop who actually got charged, he was in the back of the house shooting through the patio and the sliding glass door. He didn't hit anyone, and he ends up getting charged because he was just shooting randomly. He didn't even get shot at, and he's shooting his gun, which was reckless. So he should get charged with that, and he did. Now, the piece of bad luck was that her boyfriend happened to have a gun. Because if he didn't have a gun, the cops would have busted in. They would have got them both on the floor, maybe pulled them outside, put them in the cop car. They would have searched Breonna Taylor's apartment, tossed her apartment, trashed everything while they searched for drugs and guns and money, whatever they were looking for. They would have let them out the cop car because neither one of them was actually under arrest. Breonna Taylor was not a suspect in the case. Her house was part of the search. So they would have searched her house. She was not a suspect. It would have been over because the hustler boyfriend, he got apprehended the same night. So the bad luck was that this guy happened to have a gun, and the bad timing was that the cops happened to bust in at the time that this dude with his gun fires his gun. They shoot back, and she's the one who gets hit. The bad timing, he didn't even get hit. That's crazy to me. And they're in the dark, based on at least what I could piece together from what the boyfriend said. They're kind of in the dark. They couldn't really see. So he just fired when the door got busted down because he thought it might be the hustler dude, and all that happened. So all that being said, I'll go on the record, make sure I'm clear. And I said this in my article. Please read my article if you have any questions or challenges to anything I just said, that it was a fair outcome given what happened. It was bad luck, bad timing, and one bad decision that Miss Taylor made dealing with a dude who was living that life. And we're going to come back to that in a minute. That's point number one. Point number two. Now, there are people obviously protesting about this. Maybe some of you who are watching this have protested about it. I was on Twitter yesterday, and I was looking at the videos that people posted of people protesting. I don't know if it's in other cities. If any of y'all lives in a city outside of Louisville where people are protesting, let me know. Because if you live in a city where people are protesting over the Breonna Taylor case, let me know. I'm not talking about the white people beating each other up in Portland. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about black people protesting over the Breonna Taylor situation. I know it's happened in Louisville, but I don't know if it's happened in any other cities. I didn't see much happening here in Miami, where I'm at, but I want to know if anybody knows of anything of that. So with the protesters, those of you who are, maybe you agree with what I just said. Maybe you've agreed the whole time. Maybe you said, no, they're not going to charge the cops. They shouldn't charge the cop because this person did this person did this. You feel like the whole thing was justified. You may be wondering, why are people protesting? I want people to understand with me, I'm the type of person, I try to see every angle of every situation. So even if I disagree with something that somebody says or something that someone's doing, I can still understand why they're doing it, even if I wouldn't do it. Even if I don't think it makes sense, I can understand why it can make sense to them, because everybody doesn't think the same way. So for the people who are protesting and they're like, this was wrong, there's another case of black people not being treated fairly. There's another case of the system, just railroading black people. This is black women not being protected, and all the things that y'all know. Y'all are hearing this stuff. I ain't got to repeat it. If you're on social media, you've heard all this rhetoric that has been spewed about, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true. It's just how people feel, right? The thing about the people who are protesting now and posting and saying all these things, at this point in 2020, people have been so deeply indoctrinated with this rhetoric, with these sayings like, oppression and 400 years this and slavery that, and white people are doing this, and the police were created as a way to round up runaway slaves, and all these things that you've heard. I've heard them all. You've heard them all. I understand it. To this point, people have been so deeply indoctrinated in this stuff. Then you combine the group dynamics with everybody around them. They're all saying the same thing, and the emotion of it. Everybody's emotional about it, and everybody's saying the same thing. It is damn near impossible to have rational thought when you're inside of a group like that, when you're inside of a bubble, if you will. And when I say bubble, I don't mean that necessarily in a derogatory way. Sometimes people are just in a bubble. I mean, when I was playing sports, I was in an athlete bubble. I was around basketball players all the time. That's all we talked about, was playing basketball, what was happening in the NBA. I was in that bubble, and that was what I was thinking about. I didn't have time to think about politics or what was going on in this community or that community. All I was thinking about was where I was at and the people that I was around. So when I say bubble, I don't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing to be in a bubble. Like the NBA's playing in a bubble right now, nobody's getting COVID. It sounds like it's a good thing. So the people who are protesting, I'm not here to change their minds. I'm not here to tell you that you are wrong to protest. I'm not protesting. I don't feel like there's anything to protest, but that doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you wanting to protest things. If you want to bring up the 400 years ago, you want to bring up the police, you want to bring up Jim Crow, you want to bring up the fact that slave labor built parts of the country and all these things. Listen, I understand those things are factually true. Do I think those are things that we should carry into 2020? I don't. But if you believe that, I 100% respect it, and I accept the fact that that's the way that you feel. You can feel that way. The thing that I want people to understand, those who are not protesting, and you're trying to understand why people are still on this stuff and still saying these things. And if Trump wins the election November 3rd, oh my God, duck down, because it's going to get even crazier if he wins. And if he loses, actually, people are going to be celebrating as if, their home team won the championship. Either way, it's going to be some kind of crazy reaction. We'll get to that when it's time. But I want y'all to understand that when you have the group dynamics plus emotion, and those things get mixed in together, and then you get some powerful speakers, some people with a voice, some people who are articulate, some people who know how to stir up a crowd and know how to stir up energy, it becomes a powerful concoction. And that powerful concoction can lead to positive outcomes. It can lead to negative outcomes. It can lead to conflict. It can lead to advancement. It can lead to sending people backward. It can lead to progress. It just depends on what that person wants to do. Like Kanye said in the song, no one man should have all that power. That it can lead in any direction. And based on the way things go moving forward, whether we get another video of a cop doing something to a black person, white cop, black person, what happens with the presidential election in a few weeks, or whatever else could be taking place. What happens with the George Floyd thing next year? That trial is not till spring of 2021. There can be more of this. There will be more of this, actually. And let me not say could. There will be more of this. So I just want all of you to understand why it's happening. People feel how they feel. They do not think the way that you think. Just because you think you are logical and rational. Listen, everybody else thinks that as well. They can have the exact opposite opinion as you. Everybody's not the same. So you just have to be able to respect other people's perspectives, even when you don't agree with their perspectives. Third point. Now, this is the thing that really got me to doing this live right now, what I saw yesterday. This woman by the name of Miss Tamika Mallory. Now, Tamika Mallory is a black activist. She's along the same lines as, I guess, the Jamel Hills or the Sean Kings, or who else is out there talking about this? My Son, who's a rapper. I actually like My Son. I like My Son, the rapper. I don't know a lot about his activism, but I know he's very pro-woke. He's very woke on that woke side of things. Every time something goes down, he was in Minneapolis when the George Floyd thing happened. He's been in Louisville with the Breonna Taylor thing. Tamika Mallory is along those lines. She's a female. Now, Tamika Mallory, if she's listening or any of her supporters are listening, this is not an attack on you. This is not any way meant to be disrespectful of you. But I heard the statement that she made yesterday. If y'all haven't heard this statement, go look it up on Twitter or YouTube. It's all over. It's on Instagram. Puff Daddy, who's a guy that I have looked at as far as business goes as like a virtual mentor. I like the things that he's done business-wise, even though I'm not a musician. He posted her video, and I looked at it. I just saw it like 20 minutes ago. Got like 1.5 million views, and a bunch of people have commented and chimed in on this and co-signing what she said. It was only like a 90-second clip. So it wasn't her whole statement, but the part that has gotten all the attention. She basically addressed Daniel Cameron. Now, Daniel Cameron is the district attorney in Kentucky who announced he's the one who had the power to either charge or not charge Breonna Taylor, at least as far as the public knows. There was actually a grand jury. They were the ones who deliberated, and they decide, and then he's the one who puts it out there. So technically it wasn't him, it was the grand jury, and then he's the one who put the thing out there. He was the voice behind it, the face behind the whole thing. I don't know no legal proceedings well enough to explain it to you any better than that. Y'all can look it up and get the information yourself. But anyway, Daniel Cameron is a black man, but Daniel Cameron is a Republican. He actually spoke at the Republican National Convention, for those of you who don't know. And Republican is Donald Trump's side, for those of you who don't follow politics. So Cameron is a Republican, even though he's black. And some people may not understand how a black person can be Republican, but he is. I'm not here to argue that. He's the one who announced it. So Tamika Mallory puts out this statement yesterday in her speech to people in Louisville, a very woke, pro-black, pro-Breonna, pro-arrest the cops crowd. And she said, Daniel Cameron she called him a sellout. She said, you are no different than the black slavers who actually sold black slaves to white men to establish slavery in the United States. She said, Daniel Cameron, we do not respect your black skin. She said, Daniel Cameron, you have basically disrespected your mama and your father and your sisters and your brothers and all black people in America. You've disrespected them because of the decision that you made to not charge the cops who did the shooting that ended up killing Breonna Taylor. Now, again, let me be clear. I don't have a problem with Ms. Tamika Mallory as a person, but I do have a problem with what she said. I have a problem with that statement. I have a problem with the energy and the sentiment behind it. And I have a problem with the message that she's giving to all black people and to people who are not black on the outside looking in on us as black people with what she put out there and anybody who is amplifying that message. You can actually say I'm amplifying it by even talking about it right now, but I'm addressing it. And the reason why I have a problem with that is that, first of all, we can't make this decision or any decision that a political figure makes, that it has to be based on facts. Understand that a district attorney can't make a decision saying, all right, I'm gonna do this because I'm black. I'm black, and the black person is the one who is the victim in this case, so I gotta make a decision that's more pro-black. Or he wouldn't have a job if that was the way that he made decisions. And Tamika Mallory is an activist. She's a freelancer out here running from, one thing happens over here, she's there. George Floyd happens, she's there. Something happens here, something happens in LA, she'll be there. Something happens in Miami, she'll be here. Like, she's no different than Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. And again, not saying that they're bad people. All right, this is what they do. This is their hustle. This works for them. Okay? Again, I wouldn't do it, but I ain't mad at them. If they want to do it, this works for them. This gives them energy. Obviously, they feel like this is their calling in life. If this is what you want to do you. Okay? As long as you ain't hurting nobody, do you. But making this statement that, or this is a referendum, the fact that you didn't do the quote unquote pro-black thing means you're not black. All right, that's bullshit. Because not every black person, as I just made very clear here on this live, not every black person thought that the cops should be charged with murder or the cops should be charged with manslaughter or that the cops were necessarily wrong in this situation. As I made very clear, what happened to Breonna Taylor was a confluence of bad decisions, bad luck, and bad timing all happened at the exact same time. It's a fucked up situation for her and her family. but we can't say that the cops are necessarily wrong because they didn't just come in shooting. They shot back and somebody shot at them. That's just what happened. Somebody shot a gun at you and you had a gun. What would you do? Would you shoot back? Yes, you would, whether you are a cop or not. If you get shot and if somebody shoots at you and you don't shoot back and they shoot again, you might be dead. All right, so it ain't no, you can't protect and serve. You don't shoot back. All right, you don't live to protect and serve. So for Tamika Mallory to make this statement and a whole bunch of people to co-sign it, that your black skin is not respected, you have sold out your people, you've sold out your family, this, that, and the third. It makes us look as black people, first of all, it makes us look like we can't even get on the same page with ourselves, because Daniel Cameron is black whether you like it or not. Whether you agree with him being a Republican or not, you agree with him being a district attorney or not, you agree with him choosing to bring charges or not bring charges or bring charges against the police officers or not, he's still a black person. So if you're going to, and he's a successful black person. Again, whether you agree with how he achieved his success or what he does with his success or not, he is still a black man. So for anyone to come out and say, or you're not black because you made a decision that I disagree with, or I and my army here disagree with, or all of a sudden we're just going to say that you're not black, is complete bullshit, because now it becomes identity politics. Okay, so since you're black, you're supposed to do this, this, and this. No, the objective for any group of people, I don't care, we're talking Jewish, we're talking a political affiliation, we're talking a nationality or a color, is what's the progress that's going to help the group as a whole? What's the progress that's going to move everybody forward? And I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I have something else I need to say on that. But we can't make it about, okay, so this is the thing that, these people with a voice want, and these are the things that are being co-signed, so we just got to go along with that. And if you don't do that, then that means you're not black, you're not one of us, you're not part of the group, you're excommunicated from the group. Like, that's bullshit. And this is some middle school lunchroom shit. We're not going to move forward as a group, as black people, talking to each other like this, or by giving attention and amplifying a message from somebody who has a voice because they say something like this. I know it sounds good. I know that it can be emotionally stirring for those who wanted the cops to be charged with murder. And a Puff Daddy, Tamika Mallory, I saw Jamie Foxx in the comment section, I saw Fat Joe in the comment section, and a whole bunch of other people in there. I don't really read comments on social media, but I saw them like without even going into it. You can see their names there because they are prominent people. This is not moving us forward. And another thing that I always think, I always try to think in a more three-dimensional type of way. People who are not black, and they're looking at us right now, what are they thinking? They're looking at us and trying to figure out, all right, how much of a threat are these black people to kind of organize and get together and get on the same page and strategize and do something that would actually empower them in a way that they've been protesting and kneeling and complaining and wearing t-shirts about. How close are they to actually making this happen? What I've seen over the last 48 hours, we are so fucking far away from that happening that if I'm white, if I'm a white supremacist, if I hate black people, if I'm the Grand Wizard of the KKK, I'm like, all right, these motherfuckers ain't no threat whatsoever. All right, ain't nothing happening over there. These guys, they ain't doing nothing. Why? But we can't even get on the same page. We can't even look at somebody who's black and say, all right, we understand this is your job, this is your role, this is the thing that you were supposed to do, and this is the decision that you came to. Yes, it's unfortunate that something didn't go right with this person over here, but listen, we can't hold you responsible for that. Because listen, Daniel Cameron didn't shoot anybody. All right, Daniel Cameron didn't sell any drugs. Daniel Cameron was not involved with a drug deal. All right, all Daniel Cameron did was look at the situation and say, all right, here's the outcome. Here's what happened. Here's the facts that we have. He took 6 months to look through the facts with his grand jury, with his staff, whoever, and this is the decision that he came to. All he did was look at what happened and come to a decision about it. He did not do the shooting. He didn't execute the warrant. He didn't deal the drugs. He didn't date the drug dealer. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything in this case to be a suspect. He's not a person who's on trial here. So why he's the one who's taking the brunt of the attack is because we have some people who I guess we have positioned as leaders who have decided that they're going to play judge and jury in these situations, and I'm really just not feeling that. I'm just not feeling that and I know social media is going to amplify these messages that these people are putting out here, but it's really not helping us move forward, and that's bothering me a lot. And people say, Tamika Mallory said, well, you sold out to the system. You allowed the system to use you to no, let these white people get away. Let these cops get away with this and just let black people get killed. That's what she said. She said, you allowed the system to use you. Now, it's an interesting wording that she used there. Allow the system to use you, while at the same time, we got our black NBA, NFL, WNBA players and a bunch of prominent black people, Puff Daddy, vote or die, telling people to go vote. What is voting? The last time I checked, voting is the biggest part of a democratic system. Now, if the whole problem is systemic oppression, but people are telling you to go vote, which is the biggest way you can participate in the system, I'm seeing a conflict. I'm seeing a conflict there between the message and what you're telling people to go do. And who we supposed to go vote for? Nobody's had the balls to come out and just say, yo, go vote for Joe Biden so we can get Trump out, because we don't want Trump to win. That's what the NBA wants. That's what the WNBA wants. They can't come out and say it, because if they said that, then they would technically be being political. If they just say vote, then it's like, all right, we're just telling people to go vote and exercise their right. But if they name a candidate, then they quote unquote are officially political, because they don't have the balls to say go vote for this guy so we can get rid of that guy. Here's the problem with that. So we're going to go vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? What was Kamala Harris's job before she became vice president? What was Kamala Harris doing? Kamala Harris had the same job Daniel Cameron got. She was a state's attorney. She was a district attorney. What was her job? Putting people behind bars, incarcerating people. When she first came out, for those of you who don't remember, it was over a year ago. She first came out, she was running for president, right? She was competing against Joe Biden. And she went on the Breakfast Club, and she was getting trashed on there. I was looking through the comments when she was on the Breakfast Club, and a lot of people were trashing Kamala Harris, saying, hey, she put a whole bunch of black people behind bars, some of whom were guilty, many of whom were not. I don't know how people know this, but she was putting people behind bars, black people behind bars. She's a black woman. We can't vote for her because she put a bunch of black people behind bars. No, Kamala Harris can't be president. But now she teamed up with Joe Biden. And what did Joe Biden do? Joe Biden supported a crime bill that put a whole bunch of black people behind bars, not directly behind bars, but he created a crime law that made it much easier to put people behind bars, to incarcerate people. And we all already know, for whatever reason, I'm not here to litigate the reason, there are many more people of color proportionately to the population behind bars than there are other people, than there are white people. Now, is that because of Joe Biden? Not necessarily. Maybe those people did do something, but it's much easier to put those people behind bars because of a big process of policing and the court system and incarceration. So Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are much more responsible for putting black people behind bars than anybody on the Donald Trump side, if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be real. But all your favorite woke individuals are telling you to go vote. And if they can't come out and say it, a lot of them are, for whatever reason, not willing to come out and say it. But they want you to go vote for Biden and Kamala Harris. But that doesn't make any sense. But that's all at the same time. The whole thing is systemic this, systemic that. But now you're telling people to go participate in the system. That doesn't make any sense. And the reason why that matters is because, as I said, I've been saying this for months, ever since the George Floyd thing happened. And I never really talked about racial things that much before that, but I've talked about this. This is something that's going on. I notice a lot of people are really not willing to really address it directly, but I am. Is that how are we ever going to get organized and strategized and get somewhere as a group? I'm talking about black people as a group. How are we ever going to get somewhere? We can't even get on the same page. We can't even agree on the issues. We can't even agree on the actions. And the leaders that we have can't even make a rational argument that makes sense, at least not as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they think it makes sense. Actually, I'm sure they think it makes sense, and their followers think it makes sense. But how many of those followers are actually thinking? How many of those arguments that stand up to a critical questioning? I don't think not many of them, because the things that I'm seeing, they don't make sense to me. It doesn't jive to me. And I talk about these things. Sometimes I post it on Twitter and things like that. And Twitter is, anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day. This is the thing that I want to know. Why hasn't anyone in this whole situation, here's one thing that I know for sure. If there's anyone that should be condemned for the death of Breonna Taylor, if we're going to get mad at somebody for it, what about the drug dealer she was dating? What about him? I haven't heard anybody say anything about him. Now, he was dealing drugs in 2020. All right, who deals drugs in 2020? I thought the drug dealing game was over. At least according to the rappers, I thought drug dealing was over. I thought it was drug using now. I thought that was a new cool thing. He's the one who was dealing drugs. He introduced her to that life. He's the one who was the reason why she was her house was on a search warrant. He's the reason that the cops were knocking on her door. He's the reason, if we want to directly or indirectly blame anybody, the only reason the cops were at her house executing a search warrant on her home is because she was dealing with that dude who was dealing drugs in the hood, poisoning his own community. Nobody even knows his name. Nobody said anything about him. Why is nobody talking about that? Why is nobody mad at that? Why is BLM or their supporters not mad at him for doing something that actually hurt black lives directly, the drug consumption, and then ended up getting her wrapped up in a life that she wasn't even involved in? She wasn't hustling. She wasn't dealing drugs. She wasn't doing anything. She just knew him. That's the only reason the cops knocked on her door. Nobody said nothing about that. Now, if we want to get serious as black people, we want to get serious about accountability. Forget the cops, forget the government, forget whoever's running for president. If we as black people want to get serious about accountability, then we got to get to the root causes of situations. All right, the root cause of the Breonna Taylor situation is the fact that she was dealing with a dude who was living that life. Now, he's living that life in a black community, dealing drugs in a black community, dealing drugs to black people, and a black person ended up being a victim of that situation of his life. Where's the accountability for that? If we're going to get serious about it. That's the question that I'm asking. If, this is a big if, we getting serious about it, who's going to talk about that? I haven't heard anybody say anything. People mad at the DA because he won't charge the cops. But, I mean, the guy who actually brought the attention of the police to her house, nobody's saying his name. Nobody even knows his name. Nobody's protesting that. Nobody's got a hashtag about that. Nobody's talking about that. Why is that? That is because, and I'm going to end on this note right here, and if there are questions, I'll go ahead and address them right after this. That's because my vision, my perspective on this whole, whatever you want to call this is going on, social justice movement, Black Lives Matter movement, whatever, is that they only speak up and speak out when there's a white person to blame. And Daniel Cameron, because he represents the government, I guess they can lump him in with that because he's a Republican too. He spoke at the RNC. He came up under Mitch McConnell, who's on Trump's side of things. That's the situation here. Now, Charles Barkley and Shaq this past week, they said the same thing that I just said. Based on the facts of the situation, this is how it goes. And people say, well, Charles Barkley's a Republican. Shaq used to be a cop, as if that discredits their opinion. No, their opinion doesn't matter because he's a cop and this guy's a Republican. Listen, they saw the same thing that everybody else saw. They read the same information that everybody else read. Now, if you can't quite see that, it's either because you don't want to, or you haven't read the information, or because you've been so deeply indoctrinated by the group dynamics and the emotion that you're incapable of it. I understand it. I ain't mad at you for any of that. But let's be clear. All right, when you lay it all out and you think logically, the conclusion that the DA came to makes sense. Now, because the victim happened to be black, and because, again, all these things you already heard and all these things you already know, now you're just adding that on. Here's more proof. Here's more evidence of how America's not made for black people. Okay. Well, we're not gonna open that argument up all over again right here. At least not today. I'm sure we'll come back to it at a different time though. All that being said, I ain't even gonna recap the points here. If anybody got a question or a comment, go ahead and post it in the comment section. I'll address them all right now. Coffee the Great, what's going on? Amhar, what's up? Mozart Gates was good. Amhar, I don't even know what the question is. TJ Mafia, what's going on? Trainer TG said no future in the streets. Yeah, well, I thought people knew that, but this dude was still in the streets heavy. Coffee said, why do people choose the street life? I don't know. You got to ask somebody who did. Trainer said, was it the feds or the state police? The feds coming in with no knock. It was, as far as I know, Trainer TG, it was local police officers who lived in that city. Dude was hustling in the city of Louisville. I keep thinking St. Louis. Louisville. He was hustling in the city. They had him on surveillance. They had video of him going to his trap house. They had video of him at her house. They had video of her car at the trap house. They had video of her at the trap house, like standing outside the trap house, picking him up from the house. She was just involved with dude. She wasn't even doing nothing, at least as far as we know. He was doing it. Coffee says some people say Breonna, that the boyfriend used Breonna as a shield, which makes sense. How come he didn't get hit once compared to her? All right, so you're saying the guy who actually shot the gun. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read that. I didn't read about what happened once the bullets start flying. All I read was the boyfriend, the legal boyfriend, the new boyfriend, he shot his gun, the cop shot back, and she got hit 5 times. I do want to know how the hell she got hit 5 times and he didn't get hit, and he's the one who shot the gun. But if he used her as a shield, Well, I guess we'll never actually know unless he comes out and says it. I mean, I doubt he would come out and admit that, because that would sound real funny style. Ja says, I think the whole case was a mess. How so? I mean, I think everything was executed pretty much the way it went, the way things usually go. It just so happened the dude had a gun. The boyfriend had a gun. The cops knocked. He said, who is it? The cops said the police. He didn't hear the cops, and the cops didn't hear him. So it was just dumb luck. It was bad luck, but dumb luck in the way that things turned out, assuming that everybody's telling the truth. And they investigated for 6 months, so I'm assuming everybody's told the truth here. Mubarak says, facts, bro, appreciate that. IONS says, hello, what's good? Who howdy, what's going on? Coffee to Grace says, are you a fan of Candace Owens? I just read Candace's book. As far as Candace goes, I think she's a great speaker. I would love to see Candace go one-on-one with a Tamika Mallory or a Mai San or any one of these woke individuals. Now, she did go head-to-head with T.I. I don't put T.I. in that same category. T.I. was going more off emotion when he and Candace went back and forth at the Revolt Summit, which was like pretty much a concert. It wasn't a conference, it was a concert. It was in T.I. and her, and I think she held her own on the road game. The concert was the conference was in Atlanta, where T.I. is from, and all T.I. was doing was just pretty much just going off the cuff, and she stood her ground. So she's a very good speaker. I think sometimes she goes a little bit too hard in trying to make her point, that she goes a little bit too far on the hyperbole. Same thing that LeBron James does. She's not as bad as LeBron. She actually has some info to back up her points, unlike LeBron often. But overall, I think her presence matters because she's a black person. She's articulate. She has information to back up her points, and she's not just the crowd right now. If you're on social media, everything is very leftist, is very woke, is very Black Lives Matter-ish. And if you're saying anything other than that, it's hard for that message to even get through. So the fact that Candace exists and she's on that other side is important. Everybody can't be saying the exact same things. We need a counterbalance. There has to be a counterbalance of opinions. So the fact that she has that balance, or she provides that balance, matters. So am I a fan of her? With that being said, yes. That doesn't mean I agree with everything she says. Just to be clear. Jai, I appreciate you. Coffee said, Trump is actually a good president when you look at the things he's done for the black community. I love Trump. Well, I do know that black unemployment was at its lowest rate in history before COVID hit. That is an actual fact. Now, a lot of people don't want to give Trump credit for that because they've already pretty much decided that they need to get rid of Trump, but that is a fact. Coffee said, Charles Barkley spoke about this Breonna stuff. He had good points, but he's getting plenty of backlash. Yeah, he's getting backlash because he's not saying what everybody wants to hear a black person say. Same thing with Daniel Cameron, same thing with Candace Owens. But the thing with Candace, she was already firmly established on the side that she was on. Trainer said, we blacks need to put this, you're not supposed to catch sales where you lay your head at. Yeah, it's basic street shit. Now your family's in danger. The trap should be your office, not your home. Yeah, so basically he had just used that house to receive mail. He used it as a mailing address. I don't know if he did any deals at the house, Trainer TG, but he used that address and the cops were already on him. So they were following him, and once they get on you, everything you do, they're following. So everybody you talk to, every person's hand you shake, now that person is involved because you got them involved because they're already on you. He didn't know the cops were on him when he was doing these things, obviously. And the thing is, he had trap houses, which were not Breonna's house, but he had houses around the city. And they had surveillance of him in these trap houses all over the city. And she was there because she would drive him to the house, or he would drive her car to the trap house. So now her car is involved, her house is involved, her likeness is involved because they got her they got pictures of her at the damn trap house. Man, it's crazy lightning out here. They got pictures of her at the trap house. So I don't think he was doing deals at Breonna's apartment, but because they was already on him and he was laying his head at that house, now she's involved in that life. So if anybody needs to be held accountable, somebody needs to speak his name and hold him accountable. Sports Lover says, should I back up my boy who got jumped by opposing street gang members? Well, as long as you're willing to fight, as long as he got jumped by fists, then as long as you're willing to do that, you don't know what they got though. So I would suggest you be careful. You and your boy got to decide now how far y'all willing to go, because the people who jumped him, They might be willing to go somewhere you don't want to go. All right, the power about to go out in my crib. So everybody, we're going to wrap up this live here because the lightning is about to make the power go out here. Hope everybody's had a great Saturday thus far. Hopefully this was enlightening for some people on some levels. I think my Wi-Fi about to go out in a minute. All right, everybody, have a great Saturday. We got to wrap this up because, I don't know, about to be apocalypse out here. Work on your game. Dre all day. Tarina said, Tarina, yes, this book, this one here, yes. Work on your game. Look up my name, Dre Baldwin.